we have some special news about us to start off this week's episode because something exciting happened today on our walk.
That's right. Something exciting happened on our walk, and I guess we didn't decide who was going to say what it actually was.
We didn't plan this out.
No. Jesse and I, after 7+ years of dating, are officially engaged.
Yay!
That's right. So we will get to the Botanic Garden portion of our week, but we thought that we would bring the energy in the first part because we wanted to be able to tell not only the story of how the day went down, because it actually happened today, but also how the acquisition of the ring went down.
Right.
Because that's something that we've known for a few months. And when I say we, Jesse and I picked out the ring together.
That's right.
So we actually had a story about that, but we haven't been able to share it with anybody. And we were excited to share it when we could.
Yeah. So Mike was walking on his own one day in Astoria and came home and said, "Oh, I found this really cool shop. We should go together." And so we went to this shop, and that was, when did we go? On New Year's Day.
New Year's Eve. We went on New Year's Eve of this year. So I don't know when that was, week 28 or something of our walk, something like that.
Yeah, it was the same. Well, I'm sure we would have talked about that walk. We just didn't mention this detail. But it was the New Year's Eve when we started in the afternoon and we walked all day until like 3 in the morning.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we went to Astoria on New Year's Eve, and the name of the shop is Shiny's SNS Jewelry Store.
Yeah. It says Shiny's on the awning and SNS Jewelers online.
Yeah.
And it's a really great store. Neither Jesse or I have any particular affinity to visit jewelry stores. I don't generally like it because I feel like, I need to buy something or, the salespeople are just not generally the type of, personality that really meshes with me.
Yeah. And I guess I don't really go into jewelry stores very often because, I don't wear a ton of jewelry. And if I do, it's something that I'll wear over and over. I don't really mix it up very often. So I just don't often have a reason to buy jewelry. But this one was really cool. It was run by these really nice people, and seems like they had been, I think he even said they had been there for 30 plus years or something.
Yeah.
A long time. And almost all of the jewelry that they were selling was estate jewelry or vintage or antique or some kind of, it's had a life before.
Yeah.
Which is, I really like that because it means that every single piece is different, and the range of costumey to classic, it spanned the whole range. And yeah, he had a lot of really, really nice pieces there. And it was really fun to just look through, and they were so patient with us. We were in there for a little while pointing to different ones, and they'd bring them out and clean them off and let us try it on. And he knew the story of everyone, and he could tell, he knew right away what the kind of stone it was. It was real pro, but also really casual and friendly and fun.
Yes, he definitely fancied himself an eccentric and was making jokes the whole time. And the lady was like, "Stop making jokes. They're just here to buy things. Stop it."
But we liked the jokes.
It was a good bit. It was a 1-2 bit. And they certainly weren't pressuring us in any way.
No.
At all. They probably were wondering or probably even thought that we were interested in buying a ring for this purpose, but at no point did they do anything that tried to move the product or anything.
Yeah.
And it was the end of the day on New Year's Eve. I mean, even at the end of it too, rather than them trying to get us to buy something that day, the woman was like, "Yeah, it's time. It's time for us to close now." It was 7 o'clock. And they were
I don't even think it was that late. I think it was 5.
I don't know. They were ready to close.
They were ready to close. They wanted to celebrate New Year's. And and we were ready to go anyway. But yeah, it was totally, normally I feel like in that sort of instance, you would be being sold.
Right.
And they were kind of, he was telling us about the things he was showing us, but more of like an informative telling
Yeah.
rather than like, oh, this one,
Yeah.
And yeah, that was funny. She was like, okay, I think you've seen enough.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Yeah. So we probably looked at like 6 to 8 rings or something like that.
Yeah.
And there were a couple that we liked, in particular this one. And then as soon as we left the store, Jesse was like, I think I want that one. But it was the most expensive one, so I don't know if that was okay. And I was like, no, if that's the one you want. And it was like, but the store's closed already. But so then we were like, well, when can we go back? I mean, we can't go back tomorrow. We took a special walk here to do the next week. We're not even in the area. How are we gonna do this? So then we just spent like 4 or 5 days just thinking about it and like, oh gosh, I hope it's still there. I hope it's
Yeah,
still. But there's
which like it's fine. Like if it had not been there, whatever, it would have been fine. But it's kind of like the same experience where people like, I remember like the first time I went and found an apartment, like I saw one that was really great, but then I waited too long and then it was gone. And it's like that kind of thing where when it's this one thing that
Yeah.
exists, like this, especially with this type of store, it's not like, oh, it's a custom made that you see it and they'll have a bunch. It's like this one. It's the
Yeah.
only one. So yeah, so we
And
were
yeah.
thinking about it, and then a couple of days later, we were like, how did we do? We were just like,
I don't think
we
it was even a couple of days
revamped
later.
the
I think it was
route.
we should go to other stores, and we did. We went to Sunset Park, and we looked. There's a ton of jewelry stores in Sunset Park,
Yeah.
and we probably passed like 25 to 30 stores, and we're not even inspired to go into one because
Yeah.
it's a very cool area to walk through, and there's a lot of jewelry. But like, as far as the vibes of the stores, all of them felt kind of this same way, where it was like we're not seeing anything in the window we like. We don't really want to go in and like kind of, I don't know. It just seemed like kind of a haggling situation down there. Whether or not that was the case or not, it just none of them inspired us in any way.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, I don't really know enough about jewelry
Yeah.
to like be able to even explain like what it was that was being sold down in Sunset Park, but what I was noticing was more just that it was like a lot of the same, like I don't even know that it was new, like some of it could have been used or vintage or something as well, but
Yeah.
it just felt like every window felt the same to me.
Yeah.
Like it felt like white background, gold jewelry,
Right.
bright lights, organized case. Like whereas this shinies was like the display was like going to a museum, or you're like looking and oh, there's something, and there's
Yeah.
like this crazy display and everything's so different. And yeah, and there wasn't anything that I saw like that in Sunset Park. So yeah, none of the places really like grabbed us and pulled us in.
Yeah. So yeah, to your point, I believe we did reroute in order to go
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
in early January. And so we went there the 6th of January, I believe. And
That's right.
we were walking in the store that day, and the older gentleman was there. As I said earlier, he's kind of an eccentric, and we were like, hey, how are you? And he was like, oh, I'm celebrating our friends down in Georgia for doing the right thing and electing the 2 senators.
Right, because
And
the night of January 5th, if probably a lot of people will remember this, we were pretty excited because there had been an election and 2 senators had won, and we were all feeling pretty excited about that. And that was the news the morning of January 6th. It was the first thing that we saw when we woke up. And yeah, we were excited about it too. And yeah. Jewelry store man was excited.
Yeah. We made the purchase. He was like, "Oh, you want the expensive one? Good." And we made the purchase, and we were happy. We were kind of just floating in on our whole, day.
Yeah.
And of course, it's already perked the ears of some people, obviously, but maybe not everyone, that also happened to be the day that the Capitol insurrection happened.
Right. So yeah, we were just like neither of us were looking at our phones and we were just walking around being all like cutesy with each other for like yeah, probably until maybe 4 or 5 in the afternoon when
We came home.
finally
We made the route come home so that we wouldn't be carrying the ring around all day.
yeah. Yeah, so maybe it was 3 or 4. Either
Right.
way, it was kind of late in the afternoon when we finally came home and took a second and like checked in on things and yeah, the whole world had gone topsy-turvy. Or,
Yeah.
the capital had gone
This
topsy-turvy.
country
This country had gone
was
topsy-turvy.
experiencing some weirdness.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that will always be indelibly marked to that particular day, which I'm okay with. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's just like the way that life is, how there can be one really crazy and upsetting thing happening in one part of your experience, and then there can be another really lovely thing happening in the other part of your experience, and you're tuned into one of them at some point, and you're tuned into another at another point, and it's all just like happening at once. And that's just what life is.
yeah, yeah. So that was that, and we couldn't share that with anybody until now.
Yeah.
And I would highly recommend anybody that wants to go jewelry shopping, not just for an engagement ring, but in general, if you've never had a nice experience doing something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Well,
literally had pieces that were like, I don't know, just over $100 or
yeah,
probably even
yeah, and
less. I
probably
mean,
less too. I mean, you keep saying that like we picked the expensive one, and it wasn't like
it was
crazy. It wasn't like a
expensive
down
relative.
payment on a house or
No,
anything. It was like it was expensive compared to what they had there,
yeah,
but like it was fine. Like I'm not telling everyone how much it was, but like
it was $80 million, everybody.
I don't know
Okay.
if it's going in our cost sheet though. So
No, it's not going in. You can't go to our website
it's
to
not
look
like
what.
actually part of the cost of
No,
the project.
no, it's not.
This is an extracurricular.
Yeah,
But no, I mean I'd recommend it. It's definitely accessible. And yeah, they have very nice things and I think I get the feeling that they want to price things at a fair price.
right.
Like they're not trying to gouge anyone, but they're also carrying very nice items. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so go visit them if you like having a nice experience shopping in New York City.
Yeah, highly recommended.
Yeah.